We will start on page 124. This Parshah is Parshat Shemini, and the second part of Parshat Shemini speaks about kosher. What is kosher animals are to eat, and what animals are not kosher, right? Then we'll start to discuss it, to learn a little bit, and then we'll get into it. Okay, and the class is in memory of Jared Orchin. Mr. Orchin, you're invited.
Start 11. And Adonai spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying to them, "Speak to Bnei Israel, saying, These are the living things that you may eat from among all the animals that are on the earth. All that have cloven hoof, and the hooves are completely split. And that also chews its cud among the animals, you may eat it."
Okay, the Torah gives us two signs for a kosher animal: split hoofs and chew the cud, right? That's what makes it an animal kosher. That are the signs for a kosher animal.
We don't know why this is, though.
Oh, well, yeah. Why these two signs? We'll get to the why in a minute. But first of all, chew the cud, that animals who have the split hoofs, that their legs are split in two directions, and chew the cud, that they bring up the food again while they eat it. These are the two signs, and the Talmud says the very interesting thing, that every animal that chews the cud have split hoofs automatically. They never found an animal who chews the cud and doesn't have split hoofs. That's what it says. And these are the kosher animals. Why this? I can tell you, we can jump ahead and tell you what the spiritual lesson of these two signs. What makes us kosher animals?
We don't have those.
Chew the cud means they bring up the food again and again, right? Before you say something, you think twice. Something is on your tongue. You're ready to tell something to somebody. Chew the cud. Think about it again.
We have an English expression, chew on it.
Exactly. Chew on it. It's chew the cud. That's the lesson that we have. Split hoofs means that your both directions of serving Hashem should be equal. It means to say like this. Many times people say, I'm a man-to-man person. It comes to mitzvahs between man to man, I'm very careful, I'm honest, I'm good, I'm kind, I'm charitable. Mitzvahs from man to God, that's not my thing. Other people say, I'm a man to God person. Oh, I pray 3 times a day, and I do this, and man to man, I'm not so strong. Split the hoofs means you have to be on both sides equally righteous, because these two sides go together. What's the sign that you really love God and you love your fellow man? When is your love to fellow man a real solid thing? It's on solid ground when it's coming from the love of God, when it's based on the belief in God. Then these two are connected. We cannot separate each other from each other. And that's why that's what split hoofs means in a spiritual sense. And chew the cud. This is the kosher animals. Now we'll see what are the not kosher animals. Page 127. Go ahead. However,
These in particular you may not eat of those that chew the cud and have cloven hooves. The camel, for he chews his cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. The rabbit, for it chews its cud but does not have a cloven hoof, is unclean to you. The hare, for it chews its cud but does not have a cloven hoof, it is unclean to you. The pig, for though it has cloven hooves, its hooves are completely split, it does not chew its cud. It is unclean for you.
Okay, that here gives 4 types of animals. 3 of them chew the cud and do not have split hoofs. The Torah says, this is the only 3 who chew the cud and do not have split hoofs. And the other animal, what are the signs if an animal is chewing the cud? How do you know that?
They have two
How you
stomachs.
know that an animal, you're going to give him a X-ray? How you know he's
But they
chewing
have
the
two
cud?
stomachs, I think.
Yeah, but how you know that they have two stomachs? That's the question.
Well, ask the butcher, the shochet.
It might be a little too late. How you know that the animal is chewing the cud?
They're all vegetarian, right?
That's another explanation, but that's not how we know they chew the cud. All of you go to zoos and you learn about animals in school,
Uh-oh. Bathroom humor.
and you don't know such a basic things. How we know such a thing? Chew the cud. How I know? How should I know a regular person that chew the cud? You give him surgery? What are you going to do? There is a sign for it. They have one set of teeth. Only up, I think, only down, one of this, I don't remember. But they don't have teeth on both sides. Never heard about it?
Mm-mm.
Doctor, I mean, people, you can look on your
We need dentist.
iPhone or iPhone, whatever, and you can find it.
Veterinary.
They have only in one set of teeth. That's the sign for an animal to chew the cud. Then the Talmud tells us, you go in middle of the desert, and you find an animal who is not one of these three. What the names of it? I don't even know the good names of them in English. And his legs are cut off. If you open the mouth and you see that he have one set of teeth, you know that he chews the cud and he has split off his kosher.
A meat eater would have to have teeth on both. Up
Who?
and down. An animal that eats meat would have to have teeth up and down. to
That's
chew
a
the
good
meat.
thought. Maybe that's why they don't have to. Maybe that's why they don't eat this kind of, because they can't. Not because they don't want, but because they can't. But that's the sign for an animal that chew the cud. And then beside these three, the pig, he has split hoofs and doesn't chew the cud. Then the Talmud says that the pig sticks out his legs, he says, look, I'm kosher. But deep inside, he's not kosher. That's why we call a person who is behaving like a pig, call him a pig. We don't call him any other names. We don't call him a horse. We don't call him, why we call him? Because, first of all, some people show themselves from outside, oh, look how I'm kosher. But deep down, they're not kosher. They show from outside, they look very holy, but the inside, they are not so holy. And that's why it's compared to a pig. In general, the human being, the animal that's most close to a human being physically is the pig. And therefore they make in many hospitals, I was in a hospital, they showed me that they make when they do heart surgery, they learn how, they not only valves, but they train doctors to do heart surgery and they put them under anesthesia and they learn on pigs. Because it's closest to a human being, physically. And that's why when there is a swine flu, Jewish law says that human being have to make a fast day and pray to God because it's so close to human that it can spread among human. It's an animal sickness that can spread among human. That's why it's so dangerous. But a pig are the closest thing to a human being. And it's interesting then in Jewish law that became the symbol what Jews don't eat is pork, because it's on one end very close to a human being, and the other end it became the thing that the Jewish people, the Torah tells us it would make sense that human beings should eat it because it's very close to human being, but the Torah told us that you're not allowed to eat it.
What's the tradition that when the Messiah comes, the pig will now become kosher again?
Yeah, there is such a tradition. There is an argument about it, as usual, there's any about everything. But there is a tradition that the pig will become kosher. It goes on a deeper explanation in Kabbalah that the whole idea of there is non-kosher animals, they're not that bad, but we are not strong enough spiritually to elevate them. When Moshiach will come, we will be stronger spiritually, that The question is if they will pull us down or we will pull them up. Then we are stronger spiritually, we can elevate them instead of them pulling us down. That's what it's all about. Then where Torah tells us, you shall not eat of the flesh. We're on page 127, number 8.
You shall not eat of their flesh, and you may not touch their carcasses, they are unclean to you. These you may eat.
Now it talks about the fish, but let's first talk about the meat, because it's so important that we want to make it clear. Let's say you have a kosher animal. It's not enough that the animal has split hoofs and chewed the cud for me to eat it. The stage number 2 yet to be slaughtered by a shochet, by a kosher trained, a person who is trained by Jewish law. It's an old training process. You take a year or 6 months to learn how to become a shochet. To slaughter the animal, it has to be a very sharp, and the knife has to be so sharp that it does not have one bump in the whole length of the knife. And all is done, and they slaughter it in a certain point in the throat. And it's done in such a way, it should be the most humane way. It shouldn't cause the least pain to the animal. That's how it's being done. And when they slaughter big animals like cows, the shochet will check the knife before every animal, before and after every animal. And you can see shochet, they check, they have big nails, and they check it under nail to see if there is a bump. That's the most sensitive place to check it. And many times when they don't pay attention, they can cut something in their finger. They have a lot of cuts, these people. It's a very, very sharp knife, very dangerous, very sharp knife. After they slaughter the animal, the spot that they chose, in the Jewish law chose to slaughter the animal, is the spot that the heart is still pumping out all the blood out. The blood goes out right away. The animal gets rid of the blood as soon as possible. Where the other way it's being killed animals in the non-kosher market is in a way that kind of the blood is sinking inside the animal. Stays with the animal. That's not healthy anyway. Now, after you slaughter the animal, it's very nice. It's step number 2. Still not enough. Step number 3 is they tear the animal apart. They open the inside, the stomach, and they check all the insides to make sure there is no holes in the stomach, that the animal is a healthy animal. There's no growth, there is no holes, and so on and on. And it's called a boydek, the person who checks the insides of the animal. And they blow up the stomach they blow it up like a balloon to see if there is a hole. And if they find something is wrong, in many cases it has become not kosher. To a point that today in the regular market, as I talked to a shochet, he told me that 80% of the animals who are being slaughtered in the kosher market are going to the regular market. They don't make it to the kosher market. Mm-hmm. It means to say that the American law is much less strict. What meat is kosher is healthy than Jewish law. 80% is going away to the regular market. I couldn't believe the numbers. After you find that the insides are healthy, then comes step number 4. You have to salt it. That's why it's called kosher salt. Why it's called kosher salt? Because it's big pieces who can suck the blood out of the meat. You have to get rid of the blood.
Is that the only requirement for kosher salt? It doesn't have to be a certain type of salt as well?
I don't know. I'm just saying there is a certain salt that it's called kosher salt.
Yeah.
I think that's why. No, it doesn't have to be. It has to be.
My wife uses it all the time.
I think this is the salt. I mean, I'm not a butcher. I cannot tell you exactly how it's being done, but this is you salt the meat, pieces of meat, and it has to be salted right away, because I think within 24 hours or even less could be. It has to, because if not, the blood is sinking into the meat, and it's very hard to take this out later. That they have to be salted right away. It cannot be frozen before it's salted. The animal, the whole process has to go through, and you have to salt it right away. And after the blood is soaked out, then you can freeze the piece of meat. Then to eating a kosher piece of meat, people complain, why is the kosher meat so expensive and so on. because it's a big process. It's to be a kosher animal, that has to be a shochet who knows what he's doing. Then you have to check the animal, and many times it's not kosher. First of all, even the shochet, if he made the wrong move, it becomes not kosher. If he slaughtered it not in one shot or not the right way, the slaughtering alone can make it not kosher. And then the inside, and then the salting, and then so on and so on. That's what only then it becomes kosher to come to make it to a Jewish table. And only then, when you eat it with a blessing before that to God, you fulfill the mitzvah of eating meat of Shabbos, for example.
Excuse me. Is there a blessing that the shochet does?
Ala
before-
shchita, yeah,
And what is
for the slaughtering,
yeah, like what is it? Thanking God for, or is it?
for fulfilling the mitzvah of slaughtering the animal.
Okay.
Because it's written in the Torah that you have to, you should slaughter it as I told you. And where God told them, that's one of the proofs that of the oral tradition that God never, it's no written in the Torah where to slaughter, how to slaughter. And the Torah says you should slaughter it as I told you. Obviously there was things that were not written. But yeah, there is a mitzvah ala shchita, yes. Okay, now we're going to speak, that's the animals. What animals are kosher? Now we're going to speak about the fish. Go ahead. Page 128, number 9.
There you may eat awful things that are in water, all that have fins and scales in the waters, in ocean and in rivers, you may eat them. All that do not have fins and scales, that are in the ocean and rivers, of any creature that creeps in the water, and of any living creatures that is in the water, they're repulsively to you.
Then anything that, what are the signs for fish? Fins and scales. No? And what if they have only one and not the other?
It's okay if it has one, right? Because then it automatically has the other, according to some tradition.
No, if it has scales, it has fins. But if it has fins, it doesn't mean that it has scales. Not both of them. One of them is like
Yeah,
this.
if it has scales, it automatically has fins.
You're right. You're right. Then becomes a discussion about certain fish. If they lose the scale in the waters and they come out without the scales, do we have scales, or they don't have scales? There becomes the complicated thing. But again, the fish, we do not have to slaughter them. The moment you take them out from the water, they die and finished. No salting, no shoichet, no checking. Fish is a fish. If it's a kosher fish, that's it. Why is a fish not treated as important as an animal? What do you think?
A lot more difficult.
Ah?
It's a lot more difficult.
It's
What do you
a
mean?
lower level. They were created before the animals.
That's a good point. It was created before the animals. That's a sign. When God created the world, He created fish first, then He created animals. And then He created man. It means the order of things. He created first vegetation, then fish, then animals, then people. And more than that, that's first of all, you're right, that shows us that it's a lower level. Anybody who has an aquarium in his house, you ever established a relationship with your fish? Hi, hi, Mom. He gets excited, yeah, I love you.
Just people like that.
Yeah, people can establish relationships with stones too. But the question is if the stone is responding. That's the question.
Right.
People respond to fish. The question is because the fish has a lower level of intelligence and it doesn't have the same rules. It's not so much an identity of its own, a fish. It's a part of the sea, if you want. By the way, in the flood, God wiped out animals, but the fish survived because they were in the water. That now we know about the fish. Okay.
So why are these, when I'm looking at the difference, one says, when it talks about meat, it says it's unclean to you, and then when it talks about fish, it says they are repulsive to you, the ones that are not kosher. I mean, is there, why is the Torah using those different?
Rashi says something interesting. This phrase comes, number 11, look the Rashi.
Mhm.
To forbid the mixtures, if they have in them enough input taste. That if basically if maybe it's more not allowed than the animals.
Do they have shrimp and crab and lobster in the Middle East, that area?
I don't know, not in my house. I really don't know. I'm sure there. What do you think? In today's world, you can bring everything from everywhere. Or even if you can find it in the seas.
Can you find them in the Mediterranean?
Mediterranean.
There, by there?
You have to go online for this question. So I'm not a zoologist. I'm the wrong person to ask this question. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. It's interesting to know if Israel is clean from such things. They say that this kind of things are not healthy anyway. In any case, why it's called shekets?
That's repulsive?
Repulsive, yes. Shekets.
Mhm.
Shekets? You know what shekets means? Okay, we'll leave it for another time. Okay, number 12, I think we are. Number 11.
They shall be repulsive to you. You shall not eat their flesh, and their carcasses shall be repulsive by you. Anything which does not have fins and scales in the water is repulsive to you. These you shall consider.
Now he's talking about the birds. What birds are kosher and what birds are not kosher? Go ahead.
These you shall consider repulsive from among the fowl. They may not be eaten, they are repulsive. The eagle, the white-tailed eagle, and the bearded vulture, the falcon and the vulture to its kind, every raven to its kind, the ostrich, the owl, the seagull, and the sparrowhawk to its kind, the little owl, the cormorant.
Who knows what a cormorant?
Part of them.
Somebody sent me a video today of this type of birds. Rashi says that the cormorant is a type of a bird that goes into the water and catches fish. Somebody sent me a video. It's unbelievable how this is working. They said that in China there is fishermen who are using these birds to pick up fish for them, and they tie their necks that they shouldn't be able to swallow them, and they go down to the water, they pick them up, they come back, they pull them out from the mouth, and they put them in them, and they send them back and forth. Instead of, this is fish, they would never be able to catch it. It was like really, for me it was new. But this is the type of a bird. Go ahead.
And the eagle owl, the horned owl, the pelican, and the carrion vulture, the stork and the heron to its kind, the hoopoe and the bat.
Okay.
All winged insects that walk on four legs are repulsive to you. However, these you may eat. Of all the flying insects that walk on four legs, those which have knees extending above their legs, so that it hops on the ground with them. Of them, these you may eat.
The locust to its kind, the solemn locust to its kind, the grasshopper to its kind, and the hogav hopper to its kind. All flying insects that have 4 feet are repulsive to you.
Then let's stop here. Who can give me the signs for a kosher bird?
Doesn't say what the
Animals,
size
it's very clear. Fish, it's very clear.
are. They all seem to be hummingbirds, but there are no specific
No
signs
specific
given.
sign, no clarity. It's written the one who walk on four legs, the one of this. And because what?
The birds that eat other living things are
It's-
not,
not
like owls and vultures and those things. They kill other animals to eat.
okay, that's a general thing about all animals who are not kosher. About animals, about fish, I mean not fish, but about animals, about birds. But it's very hard to have here a sign for what type of birds are kosher and what type of. He gives names. He gives a whole list of names. The Torah gives. Why? Because it's not because the signs are not so simple and not so clear. And as Rashi says, it's very hard for us to define what is kosher and what is not. Then what makes it kosher? Then now we know what kind of bird is kosher and what kind of bird is not kosher.
Tradition.
Tradition, just like Tevye said, tradition. And when it comes to a bird, you eat it by tradition. If your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents ate it, you eat it. If not, you don't. Then came a new type of bird that was found in America or in England. It's called the turkey. And many people didn't know what to do with it. Then you go by tradition. There's no tradition. But because it was so similar and was so clear that the science was so similar, like the regular kosher chicken or whatever the bird that was kosher, that most of the Jews eat it. But there is certain families of rabbis that the rabbis made it like in their own family that the children should continue their tradition not to eat it. But 99.9.9.9 eat it. Then when it comes next Thanksgiving, don't worry, you can eat the turkey. But the idea was because there was no tradition.
Am I correct, Rabbi? I think about 100% of the Jews that I know of in the world are kosher when it comes to birds and insects.
To birds, not 100%, I wish. But yeah, I can see more than other things. There is another thing, it goes by tradition. Two things go by tradition, bird and an etrog. How you know what an etrog is? Different than a lemon. It looks the same. Put your etrog in and a lemon here. We've not done different. Then we know traditionally places that Jewish people used to take etrogs from these places. We know that this is etrog trees. One of the best place that we have a tradition over is Genoa in Italy. It's called a place Calabria, and in Genoa there is a place that for 1,000 years, the first early Ashkenazic rabbis who came 1,000 years ago to Western Europe basically, to Italy, to Germany, they took from their etrogs. And because we have a tradition of 1,000 years, that's why we take from there the etrogs. And most of the etrogs in Israel today that they sell, they're all from etrogs that were replanted from Italy. Then an etrog and a bird is eaten by tradition, is used by tradition. Okay, now now it's more speaks about the same thing. Then the real question is like this. Why some animals are kosher and some are not? Why? What do you think? Why some animals are kosher?
God wanted us eating some things and not others.
I know this answer. Give me something better. I know that God wanted us. He tells me God wanted. Yeah, sure. I didn't know that. Maimonides, in the book of the Guide to the Perplexed, he says like this. He says, God gave us food that it's good for us to eat. It's healthy. Other animals are just not healthy for us. The meat of the other animals is not good for us. That's what Maimonides says. That's why these animals are kosher. This science is, God tells us, the cow is good for you, therefore you should eat it. The pig is not good for you, therefore you shouldn't eat it. Simple. He says, and every doctor knows it, that it's clearly that the kosher animals, the meat is much healthier than non-kosher animals. That's what Maimonides says. No, Jewish people don't just say, oh, yeah, sure, whatever you say, Rabbi. The problem is that it's very hard to understand this thing from a few reasons. There is a few reasons why to accept this answer is hard. Number two, tell me, everything the Jewish food is healthier than non-Jewish food? Schmaltz, gefilte fish, herring. We eat only healthy food. God told us that everything is kosher is healthy and everything is not kosher is not healthy? Absolutely not. Then it doesn't work, it doesn't fly. That's number one. I mean, latkes and knedlach, not so healthy. Number two, you can take a non-kosher meat and make it in such a way it should be healthy. I mean, you can take out of you cook it enough, you burn it enough. I mean, you can make sure it's healthy, that every doctor will agree it is healthy. But number three, the main problem with this logic is the Torah your doctor? Is the Torah here to be given you to tell you what is healthy for you? Oh, my dear, here is what you should do. Wake up in the morning, don't do this because it's not healthy for you. Do this because it's healthy for you. The Torah gave us a general rule. A person has to protect his body, take care of himself. It's a mitzvah and an obligation. God gave us a body, a healthy body, and we have an obligation to take care of it. Therefore, we need to exercise, for example. Even though I don't, but I need to exercise. Therefore, green tea goes a long way, and almonds. Because a person, and therefore when the Torah tells you, when the doctor tells you that this is healthy for you, you have an obligation to listen to the doctor. The Torah doesn't have to tell you what is healthy. The Torah told you, go find out what is healthy for you at your time, because the opinions of the doctors change as we see it constantly. What was healthy in the time of Maimonides is not healthy today. Even 20 years from now is not. What they thought that eggs is not healthy now, it's healthy. Every day there's another discovery. And who knows? But you have to live by what the doctors, that's what the Torah tells you. Whatever the doctors in your time tell you, that's what you have to do. Even if you think that you're smarter than them, but that's obligation. Then the Torah is not here to tell you that this animals are kosher, this and because this is healthy. The Torah is not a book of medicine, of how to live a healthy life. That's Maimonides' opinion is an opinion, but and more than that, tell me, who is healthier? People who eat kosher, Jewish people who eat kosher, or many non-Jews who don't eat kosher? Who is healthier? Jewish people go to the doctor, spend all their money on doctors and medications. And they need to go to the chiropractor, and then they go on the massage they getting, and then they do therapy, and then they go here and are spending all their life on doctors. I know many non-Jews are strong and healthy and doing very well, and they eat everything. Obviously, eating kosher not necessarily makes you healthy.
It's a spiritual health.
Oh. Now we'll go to what Nachmanides says.
Okay.
Nachmanides says, what do you say? Nachmanides says, the main sign, he says, on birds is that they are killing animals with their legs. If you see how they catch the animals, they stick their nails and they kill them. It says basically, what Nachmanides says, you are what you eat. And because the animals who are not the vegetarian animals are the kinder animals, the nicer animals who don't attack any other animals, this is the animals that we eat. But animals who are attacking other animals because they are mean, that's their nature. We don't blame them for being like this. But we don't want, when we eat the meat, we should lose our sensitivity to pain of other human beings.
So why didn't God state that in the Torah rather than waiting 1,200 years or a couple thousand years for Nachmanides to say it?
That's a good question. No, what do you think? We see people, first of all, people who eat this, you see that a person who keeps kosher should be, not always, but should be more sensitive to pain of others. There is a reason why Jewish people who are so involved in helping others and helping people suffer, a big part of it because for generations and generations they only ate kosher meat, that they never lost the level of sensitivity to pain of others. And when you become desensitized, if you eat this meat, and also by seeing, for example, you see fights between people, fights between animals, and all these kind of things, you lose your sensitivity. Now you're asking a question, why the Torah didn't give us the reason? Can anybody give me an answer for this?
Or it doesn't give a lot of reasons.
That's the answer. The Torah doesn't give us reasons to most of the mitzvahs. And the Medrash brings an amazing example of it. There is one place that the Torah gave us reason. The Torah said, a king should not have many women because they'll take him astray. and he should not collect many horses because he will end up going back to Egypt, because at that time Egypt was the center of horses in the world, and he will go back because he will get involved into horses. He'll go back to Egypt to buy even a better one. King Solomon came around and he said, "Oh, this, I'm not worried about that. It will never happen to me." Guess what? It happened to him. Exactly. Then the Talmud is saying, the Medrash points out, I gave you 2 reasons for 2 mitzvahs. Look what happened. That's why God didn't give us reasons. The Torah gives us the rules. The reasons, that's what the old tradition is all about. To figure out the reasons. To realize how great and spiritual is what God tells us. That's why Nachmanides had to give us this reason. But the question of this explanation is also, let's say it's a true explanation. If this is true, why God didn't made the rules for non-Jews too? Non-Jews are allowed to be mean and cruel. God gave rules for non-Jews, right? The 7 Noahide laws. He gave them rules that they're not allowed to eat, for example, a piece of a living animal. It used to be, in the olden days, they used to cut off a leg of an animal and eat it and keep the animal alive. Because the moment they kill the animal, for how long they can keep the meat? It's a hot summer day, there is no refrigeration. If you keep him alive, then it was a normal behavior. Then the Torah says to Noah, right in the beginning, in the story of Noah, now it's coming out a movie about Noah. We'll see what they picked up on it. But to Noah, that you're not allowed to eat a piece of a living animal, because you're not allowed to be cruel. Then if the Torah, that God gives guidance not only to Jews, but to every human being in the world, to believe in God, that to not to worship idols, and to have a justice system, and not to kill and not to steal, then why should the Torah not tell them what animals they are not allowed to eat? If it makes it more sensitive, makes you a more sensitive person. And wouldn't it be better for the Jews and for non-Jews when everybody is more sensitive and nicer?
Same thing. They're an awful, the vast majority of the Torah is not applicable to non-Jews.
But if it's something that makes them better people physically, I mean, as human beings, it should be. God has mercy on everybody, not just on everything that He created. But there may be a better explanation, a deeper explanation. What was the first thing that God said something not allowed?
Don't eat from the tree of knowledge.
Of good and evil.
Don't eat from the tree of knowledge. There is an interesting medrash about that. What was about the tree of knowledge? What was so wrong about the tree? What was in the tree? What's a special tree? What do you think about the tree?
It says the knowledge of good and evil, so there's now no
It was
difference.
a tree, right? And there is a medrash that says there was nothing special about the tree. Just God took one tree and told them, this tree, don't touch. That's it. The moment he touched it, he disobeyed the law, then it became the tree of knowledge. It's called the tree of knowledge after the event, you understand? Named after the story. But just God told them, here is what you can eat, and here is what you cannot eat. That's it. What does this mean? God wanted a person to control himself. It wasn't about that this tree was not good or not perfect than any other trees. God wanted a human being to learn how to exercise his control over himself. According to this, that's the whole idea of not eating non-kosher and not kosher meat or anything not kosher. It's not so much because it's not healthy physically or because it's not healthy spiritually. You don't need it because to exercise self-control. That to remember God. God told me not to eat it. Like you said in the beginning, because God said so. Ultimately, that's the answer. Many people say, we don't eat milk and meat because it's not healthy. And if will come a doctor tomorrow and say that milk and meat is healthy, are we going to eat your milk and meat or not? Who cares what the doctor said? Because you're not doing it because it's healthy. It's true that many times it's healthy too. But the idea of eating kosher The whole mitzvah of eating kosher is really above logic. It's a mitzvah that I do to exercise my control that God is doing, telling me what to do, to remember God. Then there is a kosher piece of meat, there's not a kosher piece of meat. They look the same, they taste the same, they maybe even taste better. They both of them are healthy. Both of them are healthy spiritually. Might be, you will not become desensitized. This is kosher. This is not. Why? Because God said so. And by doing it, I exercise the control that God gave me. Then why did God started with Adam and Eve with something eating? There is many other laws. Why God told them don't eat from the tree? Or don't eat from the... Why God didn't tell them don't wear something? Like shatnez, you're not allowed to wear wool and linen together, right?
I don't think they had clothing.
They didn't have clothing. That's a
until
good point.
afterwards. So there weren't a lot of things that I think they couldn't do.
I mean, relations. There is laws, mikveh. Yes,
Yeah.
there is many laws. I mean, why started with food? What do you think?
That's one of the basic needs of living.
Not only the basic needs, other things you can shy away from them completely. You can say, clothing is not good, I'm not wearing clothing, finished. Some women are, I will go to a cave, monks. They run away from life. From food, you cannot run away. You run away a little too much from the food, you're gone. You say money is not good. Oh, we don't need money, we will not touch it, we will not be dealing with it. Always there are people who go to the extreme. If it's not good, if it's a temptation, I will not deal with it. God caught the human being in the issue that he cannot run away from. Why? Not because God wanted to catch him. God wanted to give us a message. Don't run away from life. Deal with it. Like in food, you cannot run away from eating, but deal with it. Deal with it means control yourself. Eat, but not too much. Do it, but this, not this. The same thing in everything else. Judaism doesn't believe in monks. Judaism doesn't believe in running away from life completely to one direction or to another. Or because this is not good, some people say, oh, I don't want to touch money. Money can corrupt you. We would not. No. God created it. Obviously it's good. But as long as you control the money, not the money controls you. Eating is good as long as you control the food and not the food controls you. The same thing is wine. Some people say, oh, wine is terrible. I don't drink. I don't take a drop. I don't take a drop. Don't be so holy. God created wine. If God created wine, we make Kiddush over it. In the right place, in the right time, in the right event, it's a good thing in a mitzvah. Everything that God created could be used in a good way, in a controlled way. And therefore, going to extremes, I think one of the reasons why kids in colleges are going crazy with the alcohol is because until the age of 18, you never allow them to touch one drop of alcohol. They are so eager to know what it is that they go all the way. But a Jewish child who is attending Friday night Kiddush and Shabbos day Kiddush every Shabbos with his parents, and they give him every day, we give by the bris to the baby a little wine, right? We take his pacifier, we dip it in a little wine and give him to drink. By the bris, we train him already. And if he has wine from the bris, all his life, he's not over, he will never get too excited. I didn't like wine when I was 4 years old and 5 years old. And I had to drink from the Kiddush, and I said, I never liked it. It's all about moderation. And in food, the Torah teaches us. And that's what it's all about. The fish are allowed, and the animals, and this. It's not about, you're right, it adds to more sensitivity, but people can argue. The moment you give an explanation, it could be argued. But this animal is not mean, and this bird is not this, and this is more healthy, and this is less healthy, and the doctors. God wants you to exercise your control. This candy is not kosher, I don't need it. Even this candy doesn't make me more or less sensitive, and doesn't make me sick, and doesn't make me anything. And it's actually very good, and the doctor says it's even healthy. Doesn't make a difference. There is things you're allowed and things you're not allowed. And therefore the Torah God told Adam and Eve, the food, you cannot run away from it. Right away you have to start to eat. This tree is kosher, and this tree is not kosher. There was nothing special about this tree. He just told them, just don't touch it. And you know when somebody tells you cannot touch something, your all desires are right away there. You want to touch it. That's one thing we can learn about this whole thing of kosher and not kosher. It's all about exercising our self-control and God gives us an opportunity to serve Him in every bite that we take. You know, people think that to serve God they have to go to the synagogue, to go to the temple. On Rosh Hashanah you will connect to God. On Yom Kippur you will connect to God. By every bite that you take, kosher piece of meat, you serve God. Because you refrain from not kosher meat. By every good deed, every good behavior that you do, you're already serving God. That you can serve God in the restaurant much more than in the temple. Because when you don't eat not kosher meat, a person who was used to it, right? He refrains from non-kosher, is actually doing more self-control than in the synagogue, right? But in the synagogue, he comes, he prays, he talks to his friend. Life is good. There is no struggle. Where is the struggle? The struggle, you know what means serving God? Serving God is the struggle. The giving up, the sacrificing of yourself. That you serve God more when you eat than when you pray.
Actually, other religious traditions have this. You know, kind of Catholics this time of year give up meat on Fridays for fish. I mean, is it same tradition, control, giving up in that sense?
I don't know. I'm not a professional in their religion. I can tell you what Judaism offers. But maybe it makes sense. The idea of a self-control in every religion is a good thing. No matter where you go, a person who is controlling himself will be a better human being. Because you control yourself on A, you control yourself on not getting angry, you control yourself on not taking money that doesn't belong to you, and so on and on and on. You understand that this is self-control is a good thing in every, no matter which religion, but you see, when it's coming from God, and you control yourself, then it's above logic. You cannot turn this around. If it's a self-control that you imposed on yourself, you can always stop it. Let's say you start a diet. People say, I have my own diet, I have my own self-control. When you see one very good piece, I'll take only one little piece, you know. When it's something that I imposed on myself, it's up for change. When it's something that is imposed by God, then I cannot change it. Another thing you can learn about this thing, these all types of animals, we can learn from it the greatness of the oral tradition. You know, the written Torah is written by Moses. The Talmud is given orally from Moses to the rabbis, and they developed it over the years, right, over the generations. And people say many times, people just made it up. Yeah, you rabbis made it up. There is many answers in it, how foolish the statement is, because if he made up, the rabbis who made it up made up everything. Then if now to read Aleph Beis, there's a famous story about Hillel, that a convert, a non-Jew came to Hillel and he told him, I'm ready to convert only in condition that you will teach me the written Torah, not the oral Torah. I don't believe in the oral Torah. At first he came to Shammai. Shammai sent him away. More correct, throw him out of his house. He came to Hillel. That's what Hillel told him, okay, I'll teach you. Let's go. Sit down. He started to teach him the alphabet. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. He was able to repeat it. Good, very good, beautiful. Told him, that was session 1. Come tomorrow, we'll continue session 2. Comes tomorrow, he looks he points him on the Aleph, the Bet, and the Gimel, and the Dalet. Does him on the Aleph, he tells him, this is a Taf. On the Bet, he tells him, that's a Shin. He says, hey, yesterday he said it's Aleph. He looks at him and said, you have to believe me, right? Even on the Aleph Bet, you have to believe the rabbi. Then what do you mean the rabbis made it? Everything is based on the rabbis. How to understand the sentence in the Bible? Where does in the Torah itself, there is no punctuation. There is no beginning and end of sentence. How you know the sentences? From tradition. The rabbi told this rabbi, told this rabbi. There is different sentences. If you caught it in the middle, it will be a whole different meaning of the sentence. Many, many sentences. It's all about the rabbis. But beside there, in this week's Parshah, there is an amazing proof for it. And I heard it from the Rebbe. Number one, the animals, what he said before. The rabbis came and said a rule that every animal would choose the code as split doves, beside the three that are mentioned in the Bible. Right? Since the rabbi said it 2,000 years ago, new parts of the world were discovered, America, Australia, islands, millions of kind of animals. There was never one animal who was proving differently, who contradicted this statement of the rabbis. Now, which rabbi is going to say it on his own? Oh, everyone would shoot the code, the split doors, beside this tree, really? And what if tomorrow somebody shows up and tells you, Rabbi, what are you talking about? What is the rabbis or the zoologists? I mean, how would they know these things? And we'll go even all the way and say, you got it from Moses. How did Moses know such a thing? That must be it's from God. That even the oral tradition is from God. Then comes the next thing is about the fish. We said everyone that has scales, right? As fish, as fins. And how many fishes in the world were discovered in the last 1,000 years? You go to the museums. I mean, you go online. It's mind-boggling. There is unlimited amount of this. Not one fish was discovered that he has scales and he doesn't have fins. Not one. And it's not even written in the text. It's what the rabbis explained about the text. And it's not only this. Then there is a statement in the Talmud that says that there is no worm who survives more than 12 months. I don't know if you know much about it, but worms...
No worms?
Yes. Who can live more than 12 months. I don't think it was this contradicted until today. And there is one more interesting thing written in the Talmud. How you know that you are allowed to eat milk, you're allowed to eat everything that comes out from an animal, that the animal itself is kosher. If the animal itself is not kosher, what the animal produces is also not kosher. Milk, right? Which milk is kosher and which milk is not kosher? Milk of a pig is not kosher because the pig is not kosher. Milk of a cow is kosher because the cow is kosher. Because whatever is kosher, the production is kosher. There's only one exception to this rule. Honey. The bee is not kosher, but the honey of the bee is kosher. Why?
It's not being produced by the bee.
Because it's
coming out
not
of it.
the bee. The bee just collected it and reproduce it if you want, but it's not from the bee itself. Then how you know the difference between kosher milk and not kosher milk? How you know such a thing? What do you be the
The
difference?
FDA.
Kosher
We
milk
don't.
and not kosher milk.
Yeah.
The what?
Drink almond milk, you don't have to worry.
Or soy milk.
How will you know there is a mixture of kosher milk and not kosher milk? How you know what's kosher, what's not? Milk, white milk, white liquid. How you know if it's kosher or not? Then the Talmud says, try to make from it cheese.
Yeah.
From kosher milk you can make cheese. From not kosher milk you cannot make it.
What makes kosher cheese, by the way? I mean,
Don't ask me, I'm not a baby in this.
Kosher
Kosher animal.
enzymes.
I mean, you go to Izzy's, they use a different type of cheese, right?
Then what?
Than regular pizza
Oh,
products.
sure. It's a complicated business. Even the kosher cheese is a complicated business.
Okay.
Forget about the non-kosher cheese. The kosher cheese is a problem.
It's vegetable rennet.
It's a vegetable product, as
It
opposed
comes
Yes.
from vegetables.
Uh-huh.
The enzyme is coming from
Right.
Because if not,
For
if
a
it
kosher,
comes
for a
from
kosher one. The
for
other one
kosher
is-
one, yeah.
It's from the enzyme of a cow's,
cow's
intestine
stomach.
or something like
Gotcha.
that, or a
Right.
stomach.
Then milk. Came the rabbis of the Talmud and said, milk of a non-kosher animal cannot become strong, cannot become You try to make it hard, it cannot be.
Coagulate.
Exactly.
Right.
And where kosher milk could, until today, it was not disproved. Then what the rabbis were mavens in cheese, they went and they took every milk from all over the world and tried it. And this is not written in the Torah, in the written Torah, it's written in the Talmud. That teaches us, this Parshah is a perfect example of things that are written in the Talmud, and it proves that only can come from God.
I know it's a big subject, but why in the Torah are there no open references to the oral Torah, saying God gave an oral Torah in Sinai, Moses spent
There is
the
one.
afternoons?
There is one proof. There is one proof, at least one, about, as we said in the beginning of the class, about slaughtering.
But that's a specific example, one
You're
particular
right.
thing. Why does the Torah at least not have a kind of a broad general section saying there was an oral Torah, Moses was given it by God, here there were 100 different areas given or more. Why isn't there something more broad?
That's a part of the oral tradition to say. There is the written Torah. And in general, God made things not clear. That if a person wants to make a mistake, he can make it. Right? Where is the example for it? God said, let us make man. That Moses said, if I write, let us make man, people will think there is more than one God. Let us. God says, write, let us, and anybody wants to make a mistake should make a mistake. Should have will to make a mistake. Because if everything is very clear and sharp, then there is no place for free choice. There is no. It's not clear, and you have to make a choice to believe and to accept it. Shkoyach, my friend.